Welcome, curious minds, to another deep dive. Have you ever found yourself immersed in a story that starts with this really passionate quest for justice, but then it unexpectedly twists into a complex debate about the very principles it started defending? Things like free speech, the tricky details of international activism, and, well, the subtle yet powerful influence of money. Well, that's precisely the intriguing territory we're navigating today. We're going to pull back the layers on a recent article by Sunanda Deshapriya, featured in Sri Lanka Brief. This piece, it's very direct, brings to light a truly fascinating and, quite frankly, provocative situation. It involves a prominent international human rights organization and a dedicated local activist. It's a vivid illustration of that intricate dance between advocacy, the vital principle of media freedom, and, the difficult ethical choices often made in the pursuit of human rights.
Yeah, and what's truly compelling here is how this incident sort of strips bare some of the often unseen tensions within the global human rights landscape. It's where the best intentions, the practicalities of funding, and the absolute bedrock principle of free expression can find themselves in unexpected collision. Our mission today is to really explore Deshapriya's account of this incident, understand the different perspectives that emerge from his narrative, and most importantly, consider the broader implications this situation holds for civil society, for media freedom, and, well, the integrity of advocacy itself.
Okay, let's unpack this. Let's start at the core with the journalist whose legacy sparked this whole discussion, Mylvaganam Nimalarajan. He was a Tamil journalist, tragically killed back in October 2000. His murder for, over 2 decades now? It stood as this poignant symbol for the struggle for media freedom in Sri Lanka, resonating far beyond its immediate impact.
Indeed, it has. And Deshapriya's article gives us a crucial and a very personal glimpse into the immediate local efforts that sprung up right after Nimalarajan's death. Sunanda Deshapriya himself, the author, he recounts his deep personal involvement right from the start, which really emphasizes the long-term, grassroots commitment to Nimalarajan's case within the community.
Sounds like a deeply personal journey for Deshapriya. Can you tell us more about his specific involvement? What actions did he and others take during such a turbulent time?
Absolutely. He wasn't just watching from the sidelines. At the time of the murder, he was active with the free media movement. That was a crucial independent body in Sri Lanka, tirelessly championing media freedom, especially during intense conflict periods. He and his colleagues were right there, not just advocating for justice, but also directly intervening to ensure the safety of Nimalarajan's family. They worked to help them secure Canadian visas. Yeah, a process that, as you can imagine, was difficult. It took considerable time under those circumstances.
That's a significant hands-on commitment.
It really was. Deshapriya also publicly spoke out in Jaffna during the height of the war, which is a courageous act in itself, unequivocally calling for Nimalarajan's perpetrators to be brought to justice. He even took part in this remarkably defiant sort of clandestine act, putting up posters in Colombo for Nimalarajan's first anniversary. He notes it was just 3 people working overnight, in secret. It highlights the risks involved in just remembering a fallen colleague.
That image, working through the night, against the odds for a colleague, it's incredibly powerful. How does Deshapriya remember Nimalarajan? Not just as a victim, but as a person, a journalist.
He paints a really vivid picture, describes him as a journalist with this remarkable capacity for tolerating diverse views, someone who could work effectively with different people, even amid such deep divisions. He recalls quite vividly accompanying Nimalarajan on dangerous trips for reporting during the war. He even uses this phrase, breakless bicycle rides, as a metaphor for their perilous journeys together.
Breakless bicycle rides.
Yeah, it suggests immense courage, maybe a bit of recklessness, perhaps even some gallows humor about their work. It really brings Nimalarajan to life, showing his intrepid nature and the dangerous environment they were in.
So this deep personal history of advocacy, as Deshapriya tells it, it really sets the stage, doesn't it? Emotionally, ideologically. It's crucial context. It shows a profound personal stake and long-term dedication from people like him. It means we're not just looking at some abstract incident, but something deeply rooted in people's lives and commitments. Okay, now, let's fast forward to the present day. This is where the unexpected turn happens. The article mentions a recent, seemingly positive development. Yasmin Sooka. She's a highly respected, prominent human rights NGO leader, and her organization, the International Truth and Justice Organization, ITJ. They've released a significant report on Nimalarajan's killing. On the surface, it sounds great, right? A welcome step towards accountability, building on the work of people like Deshapriya.
It absolutely should be. I mean, an international organization like ITJ getting involved, that usually amplifies the call for justice, provides critical resources. However, this is exactly where Deshapriya's story takes a very unexpected and troubling turn. Sunanda Deshapriya, given his long history, his deep personal involvement, he was invited by Brito Fernando, the respected leader of the Families of the Disappeared Association, to comment on this very report at its public launch.
Right. So a longtime committed local advocate for Nimalarajan gets invited to speak about a new, high-profile report on his case by an international body. That seems, well, not just logical, but entirely appropriate. A blend of local knowledge and international reach. Did Deshapriya accept?
Yes, he did. Accepted the invitation a full week beforehand. He even provided a promotional video to help publicize the event, showing his support. But then on September 3rd, just days before the launch, the promotional poster comes out. It listed 3 other speakers prominently, but Deshapriya's name, conspicuously absent, gone.
Wow. Okay. That is striking. A key advocate's name just vanishes from an event he was invited to and promoted. So what did he find out when he asked about this? This is where it gets really interesting, like you said.
Well, he immediately asked Brito Fernando what happened, maybe expecting, just a simple mistake, a logistical error. But Fernando told him that Yasmin Sooka's organization, the ITJ, the very group that published the report and funded the launch event, they had communicated their explicit objection to Deshapriya speaking. The directive was clear. He was not to be on the platform.
Unbelievable. So the international funding organization allegedly dictates who can and cannot speak at an event about a murdered journalist, effectively silencing a long-time local voice. That must have prompted a profoundly strong reaction from Deshapriya.
Profoundly strong might be an understatement. According to his article, Deshapriya didn't hold back at all. He saw it as an outright surrender, his word. A surrender to a prohibition order from the funding group. He states very clearly that for a local human rights activist, someone who's literally put his life on the line, to be silenced by such an order, it's nothing less than a capitulation of principles. He feels it undermines the whole idea of independent advocacy.
That's a really strong accusation. Surrender. It goes beyond just personal offense, doesn't it? What wider implications does he argue this has for the independence of civil society, especially with international funding involved?
He argues Yasmin Sooka, through this action, has set a dangerous precedent. He asks, and I think this is a direct quote, who can say that tomorrow another foreign aid organization will not do the same to another human rights activist? It's not just rhetorical. He's pointing to a systemic risk, a vulnerability. He clearly feels his media freedom, his basic freedom to speak, was directly suppressed by the financial leverage of Sooka's organization. And in a moment of pretty raw outrage, he even speculates that if Nimalarajan were alive, he might tell them to, and this is strong language, roll up their money and stick it up their backside.
Wow.
Which, yeah, it's provocative, but it powerfully conveys his frustration, what he sees as a deep compromise of core principles by a human rights group.
That's incredibly strong language, yeah. It really highlights the depth of his feeling. And he also raises the issue of accountability for this man itself, right? He wants reasons.
He does, and that's central to his argument. Deshapriya contends that if Sooka's organization has any accusation or valid reason against him, it should be publicly disclosed in writing. This, he says, isn't just courtesy, it's proper human rights practice. You can't just impose a prohibition order without stated charges. He's demanding transparency from an organization that presumably champions transparency itself. He even mentions that after 2009, he worked quite amicably with Sooka and her team in Geneva at the Human Rights Council, suggesting this current situation is a really stark, unexplained departure from how they used to operate together.
So he's implying this decision disrespects not just him, but the decades of work and sacrifice by other local activists involved too.
Exactly. He emphasizes that many Sri Lankans, like himself, have dedicated their lives to the hard work of pursuing ethnic peace and media freedom. He points to Brito Fernando, the person who invited him, calling him a brave and honorable symbol of decades of activism, a figure of huge local integrity. Deshapriya's point is that for Sooka's organization to provide funding and then just say, don't bring so-and-so, it disregards, diminishes, and frankly, tarnishes Fernando's long and honorable history. He concludes that if money can just decide who speaks at a meeting, it's not just regrettable, it's a condemnable development. It hits right at the heart of independent civil society.
It really lays bare that ethical dilemma. Okay, so Deshapriya isn't just reacting, he's also speculating on why Sooka's organization might have done this. What's his theory?
He connects it quite directly to a previous significant incident, ITJ's campaign against the sale of a book in Britain. It was former Navy Commander Wasantha Karannagoda's book, The Turning Point. That campaign succeeded, and the book was banned from sale there. He implies his past comments on that might be the reason he was excluded now.
Right. So he links being silenced now to Sooka's organization's previous actions regarding censorship or a book ban. Did he publicly comment on that campaign back then?
He certainly did. Deshapriya states he openly questioned the consistency, maybe even the double standards in such bans. Specifically, he asked if Adolf Hitler's Mein Kampf was banned in Britain, pointing out that it isn't, a very provocative comparison. And furthermore, he noted that Benjamin Netanyahu, the Israeli prime minister whom Deshapriya describes in the article as a genocidal figure in Gaza and named a war criminal by the International War Tribunal, is also not a prohibited person in Britain.
Okay, that's a very pointed set of comparisons.
Yeah.
What's the underlying point Deshapriya is making by bringing those specific examples up in relation to the Karannagoda book ban?
He's directly challenging the criteria and the consistency being applied. His argument essentially questions the selectivity of these kinds of prohibitions, especially when they come from human rights groups expected to champion free expression. He isn't necessarily defending Karannagoda's book or Mein Kampf for Netanyahu's actions,
Right.
but scrutinizing the principle behind the ban. If a human rights group campaigns to ban one book, while other, arguably far more controversial materials are available, it raises questions about the ethical framework, about the limits of advocacy.
About perceived double standards.
Exactly. Where do organizations draw the line? And crucially, what are the transparent criteria for those decisions?
That's a critical point. It forces us to grapple with the complexity of balancing free speech ideals with the specific mandate of human rights work. So when he puts these past actions together with the current incident, what's his final takeaway? His ultimate conclusion about Yasmin Sooka's approach to human rights advocacy?
Deshapriya lands on a very strong statement. He believes Yasmin Sooka's human rights politics are, in his words, completely contrary to Nimalarajan's own media and social practice. The kind of journalism Nimalarajan represented, open, tolerant of diverse views, committed to truth without external filters. He asserts that succumbing to the financial influence of an organization like this, especially when it dictates who can speak, it's not protecting media freedom. He calls it a betrayal of media freedom.
This deep dive, it really reveals a truly complex and, yeah, at times, quite uncomfortable intersection. Human rights advocacy, media freedom, and these profound ethical dilemmas raised by international funding and influence. We've seen how local activists with years of dedication, personal risk, they can find their voices challenged, even silenced, even when discussing the very issues they have championed for decades.
The core tension here, as Deshapriya lays it out, it really revolves around who gets to tell the story, doesn't it? And what happens when those principles of free speech and local autonomy bump up against the often unspoken realities of international funding relationships. His account raises these vital questions about the true independence of civil society organizations, especially in difficult contexts, and the potential for these dangerous precedents when financial power seems to dictate who gets to participate.
And this isn't just a story about one incident in Sri Lanka, is it? It feels like a microcosm of global challenges. Challenges faced by civil society, by advocacy groups everywhere. It reminds us that even within this noble, essential pursuit of human rights and justice, there are intricate power dynamics. There are ethical considerations at play that demand critical examination from all of us.
Absolutely. So for you, our listener, here's maybe a provocative thought to mull over, something extending beyond just this specific incident. In the broader landscape of advocacy, what are the true, maybe hidden long-term costs of justice when the very voices speaking out are filtered or potentially silenced by those holding the purse strings, even perhaps with the best intentions? And what does that ultimately mean for authenticity, for the genuine pursuit of truth, and for real democracy in the global arena? Something to think about until our next deep dive.